Hello. The lesson today, the objective is to review solving equations and inequalities. So the title of the lesson is Review, Solve Equations and Inequalities. We're going to start by solving this equation here. And if we notice, we have parentheses. So first order of business is to multiply, or to get rid of the parentheses by multiplying the number that is just outside the parentheses by each number inside the parentheses. In this case here, you don't see a number, but we know there's an invisible 1, so we're going to put a 1 there. And we're going to multiply this negative 1 times whatever is inside the parentheses. So we have 7 times 2x, and negative 2 times 4x, negative 2 times negative 3. Alright, so to multiply fractions, basically what you do is you multiply the top numbers. So 2 times 6x is 12x. And then you divide by the bottom number. So 6 times 2x is 12x, divided by 3 is 4x. And then we do the same here. 2 times 24 is 48. 48 divided by 3 is 16. And we cannot forget the sign. Positive times a negative is a negative. Then we're going to do negative 1 times 5x is negative 5x. And negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9. Alright, then we do this side over here. 7 times 2x is 14x. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. And then negative 2 times 4x is negative 8x. And negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And we're just going to bring down the negative x. Notice here that I do not multiply 2 times negative x because the negative x is outside the parentheses. Alright, so first order of business was to multiply or get rid of the parentheses by multiplying. We did that. The next step is to combine like terms. So first, we combine like terms only if they're on the same side of the equation. So remember, here's the equal sign. On this side of the equation, who can I combine? Well, 4x is like 5x because they both have x. So 4x minus 5x is negative 1x. And then negative 16 plus 9. We can combine negative 16 and positive 9. So negative 16 plus 9 is negative 7. And now we're ready to do the other side of the equation. So here we have 14x and we have negative 8x and we have negative x, which all have x, so they all like terms. Alright, 14x minus 8x is 6x. 6x minus x is 5x. So that means we can write it down over here. 5x. And then we have negative 35 and positive 6. And we're going to combine that and we're going to get negative 29. Alright, so we eliminate parentheses by multiplying. Then second step, we combine like terms. Now the next step is to move the numbers. We want the numbers with x on the left and the numbers without x on the right. So basically we're asking from left to right, is this guy going to stay or going to move? This guy has x, so it stays. This guy does not have x, so it goes to the other side. And please remember this important rule. If you move a number from one side of the equation to the other side, you need to change the sign of the number. The sign of this 7 here is a negative. So if I move the 7 to the other side, it's going to become positive 7. Alright, then we'll go on to the next number, which is 5x. Should this 5x stay there or move to the other side? Well, it has x, so it needs to move to the other side. So if I move positive 5x to the other side, it will become negative 5x. Please remember, if you move a number from one side to the next, you need to change the sign. If it's a positive, it becomes a negative, and if it's a negative, it becomes a positive. Okay? Alright, let's continue. We stopped right here. We moved the 5x. Now how about the 29? Does he have to stay, or does he have to go? Well, it does not have an x, so it's in the right place, so we're just going to bring it down. So that's, in other words, it stays on that side right there. Alright, now that we moved, let's combine these again. This would be negative 6x. Negative 1x minus 5x is negative 6x. And on this side I have 7 minus 29 is negative 22. Okay, and now that we have this, now we're going to try to get the x alone. How do I get the x alone? We divide both sides by whatever is next to the x. In this case is negative 6. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 6. And this would be x equals to, and for this lesson we're going to use the calculator. So 22 divided by 6, if you punch it in the calculator, this will be 3.66666, etc. Right? So for the purpose of this class, what we're going to do is going to round our answer to the nearest tenth. Okay? So in other words, we want to make sure that we have one digit after the decimal point. Okay? So that will be the 10th place. Okay? So if I was to round this to the nearest tenth, this would become this would become 3.7. Okay? Basically, the reason why is because the number right to the right of it is 6. If this number here is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, that means we increase this one by 1 if we're rounding. If this number had been less than 5, then this would just stay as it is, would stay 3.6. But because this is a 6, we'll round it to 3.7. Also, because we're rounding, we don't use the equal sign anymore. We're going to use something called the approximation sign, which looks like a little squiggly line like that. Okay? Basically, this is the symbol that means x approximates to 3.7. Okay? Also, because we're trying to prepare for the state testing, we want to practice how to write these answers in the grid line. Okay, the answer we got here is a positive number. So on the test, you want to circle the positive sign. Also, you can use these boxes here to help you fill the grid correctly. But please remember, the computer does not read these numbers. Okay? The computer reads this right here, the bubbles. So make sure you fill in the bubbles completely. Okay? And if it's a point, you put a point right there. And this would be the 7. Okay? Alright? So this would be our answer that you would put on the state testing. Okay? So here it is, how to solve an equation. Okay? Let's retrace our steps. Okay? Right here is the first thing we did. The first thing we did, step number 1, was to eliminate parentheses. Okay, and we eliminate parentheses by multiplying the number outside with the number that are inside the parentheses. So eliminate parentheses. Alright, once we eliminated the parentheses, then the next step was to step number 2 was to combine like terms. Okay, so here we combine like terms. Now remember, like terms are numbers, for example, numbers that have x are like terms. Numbers that don't have like x are like terms. Okay, so like for example, 4x is like 5x because they both have x's, and then 16 and 9 are like terms because they don't have x's. And please remember, you can only combine if they're on the same side of the equation. If you notice right here, I combine 4x with 5x because they're on the same side of the equation. I combine 16 and 9 because they're on the same side of the equation. I do not combine 9 with 35. Why? Because 9 is on the left and 35 is on the right. Alright? Alright, so we eliminated parentheses, we combine like terms. Then what do we do? Okay, after we combine like terms right here, we start moving the numbers. We move the numbers with x to the left, and we move the numbers without x to the right. So here, step number 3 is to move the numbers. So move the numbers. Okay. Alright, once we did that, okay, we combine it again, right? We did the adding and subtracting, okay, depending on the sign. And then the next step was to divide. We divide both sides by the number next to x. So if you notice right here, okay, step number 3 is we move the numbers around, and then we do the operations. Negative 1x minus 5x is negative 6. 7 minus 29 is negative 22. And then what do? We want to get the x alone, so what do? We divide both sides by the number next to the x. The number next to the x is 6. Okay. Alright, so we divide both sides by negative 6. And if you notice, the negative cancels, the 6 cancels. You're left with the x alone. And then we did the operation using the calculators. Okay. And here, and by the way, this is step number 4. Okay, and then step number 5 here, what we did is to we round to the nearest tenth. So we round okay, the answer. Now, please be careful that sometimes the problem might ask you to round a different way. For example, to the nearest hundredth, to the nearest 10,000. Okay, so it all depends on each problem. All right, nearest. There we go, 10th. All right. So basically, eliminate parentheses, combine like terms, move the numbers, and then basically solve the equation. Okay, remember that when you divide both sides by the same number. And now we're going to be doing some rounding, so please pay attention what the problem is asking. In this problem right now, is asking you to round to the nearest tenth, so we round it to nearest tenth. Okay. All right, so that is the first example of solving equations to review. Okay, remember you can stop the video at any time and replay it, so to see how to do it, the problem. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next page. Okay. Okay, here we are on the next page. So here we have example number 2, and what we're going to do is, if you notice, we have fraction on both sides. When we have a fraction equals a fraction, what we can do to get rid of the fraction is we can cross multiply. So basically, we're going to take the numbers that are on the bottom and we're going to move them up. This 2 is going to go to the left side, and the 4 is going to go to the right side. And when you move them, that means they're going to multiply. So this would be 2 times 3x minus 15 equals 4 times 9x plus 7. Okay, so basically once we get rid of the fraction by cross multiplying, we have a very simple equation here that has parentheses. So first thing we need to do is get rid of the parentheses by multiplying. So we're going to take the number outside and multiply by what's inside. So basically we're going to have 2 times 3x equals 6x. 2 times negative 15 will be negative 30. And this would be 4 times 9 is 36. And 4 times 7 is 28. Alright, now we're going to move the numbers around. Well, actually the next step would be to combine like terms, but if you notice here on this side there's nothing to combine, nor on this side. So basically we'll go on to the next step, which is to move the numbers around. So 6x has an x, so I leave it there. The 30 does not have an x, so we move to the other side, so it becomes positive 30 as we move to the other side. The 36 needs to move, so it becomes negative 36. So basically here I'm rearranging the numbers with x on the left, numbers without x on the right. 28 does not have an x, so we bring it down. And now 6x minus 36x is negative 30x. And then 30 plus 28 is 58. And now, is the x alone yet? No. So what do we have to do? We have to divide both sides by negative 30. And using a calculator, well, the negative goes away, the 30 goes away, the x is left alone. 58 divided by negative 30 is 1.9333. It goes forever. So since we're going to round this to the nearest tenth, that means you look at the number after the decimal point, and then you look at the number to the right of it, and if it's between 0 to 4, that means you're not going to do any changes. It's just going to stay as 1.9. If this number was a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then this would be increased by 1. So that means this would round to 2. Okay? So, and we use the approximation sign. So our answer is 1.9. Now we're going to use the grid here. Oh, and by the way, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. We cannot forget the sign here. So let me do erasing here. Ooh, I almost forgot the sign, huh? It's very important that you be careful with your signs. So let me do some erasing here. Because I'm going to get it right. And yes, the sign can cost you a lot of points if you're not careful. So always check your sign. Okay, as you can see, it's very easy to forget. I almost forgot it here, and now I'm going to write on my answer here 1.9. So this would be negative. Whoops, mistake there. So 1.9. Okay, and you can leave the other one as blank. Okay, all right. So that concludes the example number 2 of our lesson here. So let's go on to the next and final example of the lesson. Here we have an inequality. An inequality has an inequality sign. Okay, when you have an inequality, you're going to solve it just like solving an equation. But once you get an answer, you need to remember to plot your answer on a number line. Okay, so here basically first order business, get rid of the parentheses. So let's get rid of the parentheses by multiplying. Okay, very similar to solving an equation. All right, and so 3 times 12 is 36 divided by 4x will give you 9x. 3 times 4 is negative 12, divided by 4 is negative 3. And remember here we have a negative 1. So negative 1 times 6x will be negative 6x. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1 times 4 is positive 4. Then we have the symbol greater than. And then we're going to do 5 times 2x equals 10x. And then 5 times negative 4 will be negative 20. And then negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Very good. Now we're going to combine like terms. Okay, so we have 9x and negative 6x. So 9 minus 6x equals 3x. Then we're going to have negative 3 and positive 4. Signs are different, so we're going to subtract. So it'll be positive 1 greater than. And then we're going to have 10x minus 3x. That will be 7x. And then negative 20 and positive 9. Signs are different, so you subtract, will be negative 11. Okay, so we eliminate parentheses, we combine like terms. Now it's time to start moving. The 3 stays, the 3x stays. The 1 has to go, so it becomes negative 1. The 7x goes to the other side, negative 7x. And this would be negative 11. 3x minus 7x equals negative 4x greater than. Then negative 1, negative 11, signs are the same, you would add, so it would be negative 12. And final step is to get the x alone, so we're going to divide both sides by the number next to the x, which is negative 4. And with that, the 4 cancels, the negative cancels, you're left with the x alone. Now, one very important rule to remember in inequalities. Whenever you're dividing by a negative number, that means the number over here is a negative, the one on the bottom is a negative, that means the inequality sign will flip. So it was pointing to the right, but now it's going to point to the left. Okay? Then negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. Alright, so this is our answer right here. Okay, and now it's time to graph. The way we like to graph is we make a lumber line, and we want to make about 5 tick marks, and we want to label those tick marks. Okay, how do we label? We look at this number right here. We got a 3, so that's going to be our middle number, and we want to put 2 numbers to the right, so this would be a 4 and this would be a 5. And on the left, this would be a 2, and this would be a 1. Okay, now please remember, if you have less than or greater than, that means you're going to have an empty circle. Now, if you have less than or equal to, or the symbol greater than or equal to, that means you're going to use a filled circle. That means a circle with shading inside. Okay? So, very important to remember. Over here, since we have less than, that means our circle is going to be an empty circle starting at 3. And because it's less than, we're going to go to the left. In other words, see how the arrow is pointing to the left, and then the equality sign is pointing to the left? That those will be the same. Okay, alright, this concludes our lesson for today. In the bottom we will put to the assignment and the date of the assignments. Okay, this might vary according to your class, so let me erase this for now. But basically, when I give assignments, okay, I put the assignment number, and let's say this was assignment number 1, I put assignment number 1, and then I'm going to give you a day. I will stamp the assignment, which is 1/7 for an example here, January 7th, and the last day to turn it in will be on the Friday of that week. So in this case would be 1/9. Okay, so when I give assignments, you will notice that I will use this notation. Here's the assignment, here's the day I will stamp the assignment, and this is the last day you can turn it in. Okay, remember, if you have an assignment with the stamp, you get 100 points minus whatever else I find wrong. And if you don't get a stamp, that means you lose 20 points, but you still can get 80 points out of the 100 points total, minus whatever else I found wrong. Okay, and you have until that Friday that week to turn it in. Okay, you can always turn it in early, but please make sure don't turn it in anything without first making sure you're getting the stamp. Okay, sometimes students try to turn it in way before it's due, and if you do that, you won't have the stamp. Okay, so please be careful. Alright, thank you very much for your lesson, for your time, and have a great day.